Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode. I'm super pumped today. I got my good buddy, Mr. Sam Moke, on here with me today. And his story is incredible, guys. I'm excited to have him on. Sam, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm great, dude. I'm great. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So, Sam, let's dive right into it, man. We'll get past the fluff. You and I were talking at one of the networking events that we were both attending, and you and I, we've met, but we had met before and talked, and I think you've done a couple deals with our company before and that kind of thing. But I didn't really get a chance to get to know your story until that night. And listening to your story, man, I was super inspired, and I was like, man, I got to get you as a guest on this podcast because I think what you can share for people hopefully will provide a lot of excitement for people, a lot of motivation, hopefully for people, and a lot of hope. So, give everybody a little bit of your background, man, and start from wherever you want to take that at. But yeah, wherever you want to start that story, how did you get to this point today, investing in real estate in Northeast Wisconsin?
Well, basically, I was born in the Congo. So for those who doesn't know where the Congo is, the Congo is in Africa, so central of Africa. So that's where I was born. My journey to the US was, I basically came in the US in 2012 for the first time.
Okay.
And so I was selected for a basketball camp. At the time, we spent about 12 days in DC. And after that, we went back to the Congo. And then I play a lottery. There's what we call DV lottery, that diversity lottery that I won after coming back to the Congo, that allows you to come into the US legally, and receive a green card and other stuff. So basically, during that time, they give you about a year to get ready so you can uh, gather everything. So I gather all the things during the year. I went to South Africa. So I lived in South Africa for actually 10 months. That's where I learned English. And
Okay.
the funny thing is, in South Africa, they speak English and their home language. Some of them will speak Zulu or they speak Xhosa, the click language, right?
Okay.
Like, right?
Okay.
And so I lived there for 10 months, learned English, moved to Texas for my 2 years. So I lived in Texas for 2 years. And then I ended up moving in Wisconsin, where I went to school as a physical therapy assistant.
Okay.
But there is a lot of journey when I got here because I had to learn the system, realize that my English was not the American English. So there was a lot of challenge that came there as I was getting to learn what is the system look like, what is credit like, what is investing look like.
Yeah. So your what would I say? Like your speed up, or your time to get up to speed was a lot more compressed than somebody who's born here, is from here,
Correct.
culture, language, all that other stuff. Like you had to learn all of that and then get into the real estate thing, right?
I think usually I think foreigner like us, we have kind of an advantage, which
Okay.
is also a disadvantage. I think the advantage is we are born from a poor country. Congo is the fourth poorest country on earth.
Oh,
So
wow.
the urge to success is different
Mm,
because we're like, you got to make it for your uncle. You're not making it for yourself. You got to make it for your
wow.
mom, your dad, your uncle, and people that are back there because once in a while they will text you to say, "Hey, you're in America. You can send me something." So the pressure and the urge, to be successful is in the different level, but also the level of appreciation, right?
Sure.
We sometimes you grow up with you grow up in the US, you're used to this so much that you don't see the opportunity. So
Mm,
somebody like me, when I come in, all I'm seeing is opportunities because there is that. Because from where I came from, I'm like, well, I'm grateful for this country. I'm grateful for Wisconsin for the low cost and everything like else.
yeah. Wow. That's such crazy perspective, man. Like as you were talking, I'm sitting there going, oh man, that's like convicting to me. Like, yeah, I do take a lot of stuff for granted. And like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine what it would be like to come from the fourth poorest country on the planet. And
Yes.
then, what is the lifestyle difference? I mean, I got to imagine like I have a picture of what Congo is like in my brain, right? What was it like? What were the biggest, I mean, biggest changes you saw when you said
And
you see opportunity everywhere and you see all these other things? Like what does that look like?
it's basically once you come here, you have that culture shock right away, right?
Okay.
You have beside the language, right? So in the Congo, they speak French, and in
Oh,
Gala, and they've a lot of dialect. So
okay.
myself, I speak about three languages. Usually I tell people four because the last one is fax. So but yeah, so you have to learn the culture. Basically, my in Congolese people have this saying that they say once you move to a new country or a new place, you find people dancing with one leg, you have to learn how to dance with one leg.
Okay.
So to me, it's the shift of how bank works. In the Congo, people use cash for all things. House is gonna be by cash. And there's not a lot of opportunity to have jobs. So
Mm.
I'm always telling myself, I'm like, if I was still in the Congo, I'll be probably living by my parents asking where's my food at, because I probably don't have a job because life is very, very difficult. And most people will say, okay, I make only $29,000. In Congo, you're rich, baby.
You're the
Yes,
king.
it's
You're the king.
you get a lot of money because
Yeah.
the lifestyle is so low. You don't
Yeah.
need a lot of money like that. So once I moved here, funny story, I was in Texas. I used to make my first job, I was making $8 an hour. I was like, oh my God, I'm making a lot of money, $8 an hour. And then after about like 3 months, and then I was like, oh no, I can't make it anymore because I realized that, oh, this is not a lot of money. Oh, I'm struggling. I was struggling financially.
Sure.
And another thing is, once you grow up in the poor setting, like in the poor country, you will find out that, uh, you know, the money problems are one of the biggest problem because people are not taught how to manage money
Mm.
you know
Mm.
and I realized one thing is that poverty is not lack of activity but of creativity, right?
Mm.
You're not poor because you're not working hard,
Mm.
right? Because usually poor people works very hard, right? When
Yes.
you look at you look at people, you be like, oh wow, this guy is working very hard.
Yeah.
But the creative people are the one who create wealth or
Mm.
perhaps create value. The reason why we go, for example, to Walmart is not because we know the Walton family. It's
Mm.
because they provide value that we think, okay, I can give my money to receive the value that they offer. So that's the mind shift that you have to start shifting, like, okay, what is the value I can hope offer so that people can see that I'm valuable, and then capital follows value.
Yeah. Wow, that's such a great point. I mean, yeah, I've done missions trips in some pretty poor countries, and number one, first of all, there's something to be said about not having a lot of material things that I notice like they're super happy a lot of times.
Oh yes.
However, I do notice like they're typically the hardest working people. We did a house build in Ensenada, Mexico a few years ago, and there was a single mom with like a 2-year old that was living in like an outhouse. For us, we're like, oh my good, it's like total culture shock. Like, I can't believe anybody would live like this. This is crazy. And she's working like 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts, and just trying to provide for her kid. And that's what she gets for her 7 days. Yeah. And I'm like, this chick works way harder than I do.
Yes.
Typically the wealthy people here are the laziest, right? You're like, how do I
Yeah.
work the least amount and make the most amount of money?
The
And it's just
most amount.
it's about having that question. And then it comes back to the value exchange, right? Like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think though that piece that you mentioned a few minutes ago, that's gonna be one of our little nuggets there because that was so good. One of our little sound clips we'll probably take out of this because that was such a good little point there. So talk
Definitely.
to me. How did you then? Okay, so how do you transition here? You're in Texas. You're culture shock. You're making $8 an hour. How do you go from that to then real estate today? How do we bridge that?
Good
How does that
question.
happen?
Yeah. So basically, once I was in Texas, uh, I had to move here. Basically, I don't really like to talk about this story because it's like it's bumping me. However, my brother had some financial issue that basically my brother was an international student.
Oh, okay.
And if you are an international student, you're paying 3 times what we're paying. So like a bill of $500, an international student is paying about $1,500.
Okay.
And so as he was going to school in Wisconsin, I was in Texas, it happens that my parents was in some financial difficulty, and I was in the position where I had to basically be the bigger guy, right? So I had to pay his rent, my rent, his school, my school. And it put me in the position where it was not sustainable. So I had to either have my brother move to Texas, or I was supposed to be moving to Wisconsin. So then I moved to Wisconsin. I realized that once the life cost was very minimal, right? So the how much you have to rent and all of those other stuff was not a lot of money, versus living in Texas.
Sure.
So that was appealing. So as I moved in Texas, I end up meeting my friends, because I was playing basketball. I meet one of my teammates, which is my wife right now.
Oh, okay.
So we start dating. As we were dating, my wife was the type of lady that walks around with books.
Okay.
And she told me, Sam, you know what? I noticed you don't read. I'm like, I don't want to read. Plus, it's English, And so, but I took it to heart though. When a good friend gives you an advice, you take it to consideration. So I was like, because I don't like to read, I was working at FedEx at the time. I used to call it FedEx University, right?
Okay.
Because I'll listen to books, audiobooks. That's how my journey started.
Okay.
I started listening to audiobooks, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Bird, and I was listening to those books, and that's when I decided that maybe I should start investing in rental property. So the first thing that happened to me, a lot of unfortunate things. One of the things was I was going to school for physical therapy assistant.
Okay.
And the school was so hard at the time for me because I had to deal with language, because even for people who speak English, I have to deal with, English terminology. So that's like a whole different language in, medical terms.
The medical terms are no joke.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as I was going to school, I failed one of the classes, so I failed one of the classes in my school at the time, NWTC. I had to start over. So because it's a group, we're going with the program. So I had 3 classes. You fail one, you got to wait for a whole year.
Oh my goodness.
So that's what happened. So when I failed one of the classes, I had to wait for a whole year. So I told myself, what are you going to do? Because you're going to be working probably. Then you're not going to have anything to show up for when your friends graduate.
Yeah.
So my decision was like, I'm going to buy myself a duplex.
Nice.
So that's when my journey started. I remember I saved $21,000. And then I started looking for a duplex. I'm like, I'm going to buy my first duplex. I'm going to live on one side. I'm going to basically house hack it.
Yeah.
So I started looking for a house, and I found a house in Manitowoc. So my first house was in Manitowoc on Marshall Street. So I went there, I saw a nice duplex, a big one. And then I was like, I did an inspection. After the inspection, the inspector came way bad. Like the house was good, but what the inspector came back, I was like, oh, I can't take it. But it's so beautiful. I'm like, oh God, I don't think I'm gonna get anything like this. And I continued to look for with the realtor that I was working at the time. I found another triplex at the same streets, like 2 blocks away from that house. So I ended up buying a triplex for, I think at the time it was like $93,000.
Wow. How long ago was this?
This was 2019.
Oh yeah, boy. So you got some equity is what you're saying.
Oh yes. Yes.
Beautiful. Wow. Okay, cool. So then you lived in the triplex?
Well, I didn't.
Okay.
So the intent was to live in it, but I realized one thing. I was living in the apartment at the time. My rent in the triplex was more than what I was paying in the apartment. So I ended up staying in the apartment. Plus, it was in Manitowoc. I was going to school in Green Bay. So I was like, well, I would live in an apartment. I would still rent that one.
That makes sense. So you were keeping a little spread there on what you could rent it out for versus what you were paying. I like that.
Correct.
Like that.
Yeah.
What did you do for financing on that, Sam? So, and how does that work if you're somebody from a different country? Is there something, for those of our listeners out there who maybe are in a similar situation, who weren't naturally born here? what do they need to know about the banking system and about credit and all that kind of stuff if you're a new citizen?
Well, so there's what we call there's green card holders. Green
Okay.
card holder will be legal people that can be, they're just like any American citizen. They
Okay.
have that green card allows them to borrow, to work because they are legally, in the US.
Okay.
So the one of the things that usually people don't understand will be credit. They
Okay.
don't understand credit because most of those African countries don't really have the uh, opportunity of using credit. And so one of the things that I had to learn was what was credit?
Mm.
How does that work? What is debt? You're right.
Mhm.
How does that work? What is the difference between good debt and bad debt? Yeah, so yeah, rich dad poor dad
I was just gonna
things.
say there's a rich dad poor dad right there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are the things that they will have to learn. They will have to
Okay.
learn what is the DTI, right? What's the debt to income ratio?
Mhm.
Things like that was brand new to me. Thanks to the books, right? The more you learn, the more you earn, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So the more I was reading, the more I was learning the things because readers are leaders, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you come from a different country, you come to the US, you are legally, you have all your paperwork. You want to learn how credit works. Basically, you start with the perfect credit. So
Oh,
they give you a benefit of a doubt,
okay.
basically. You
Okay.
start with the perfect credit. However, that credit doesn't have any credit utilization because you haven't used it.
Mm.
So then you apply for your first credit card, usually maybe a secure credit card or unsecured credit card, because they want to see how trustworthy you are.
Okay.
And from there, you can start building out the real credits because
Okay.
if you just have a perfect credit with no credit history, the bank's still seeing that you're high risk.
Okay, that's really good. That's similar to like what we teach, younger kids who are thinking like, man, I want to do something cool when I'm older. Talk about financial literacy. One of the things, be responsible with a credit card and just pay it off every month, but just get
Yeah.
it going and then you can start to build some credit. So very similar. Pardon my ignorance here, Sam. So the green card, do you always have a green card then, or at some like what is that?
Yeah, so
Explain that.
basically the green card is it's a uh, uh, it's a residency. So it's a
Okay,
card of residency. It gives you you are a permanent residence. When you are a permanent resident, that card is the green card of your
got it.
permanent residency.
Okay.
Some will have a work permit. So like if you are a refugee, you're not gonna have a green card yet because you have to apply for asylum. Once you apply for the asylum, you apply for the work permit as you're waiting for your judgment, so they can give you a permanent residence.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
but there's other loophole that you can do. Basically, like if you're married to an American citizen, then you can have a temporary citizenship, which will, I mean, a residency, which will give you a green card. And that will be usually like a 3 years or 2 years, and then you have to renew it.
Okay. So that's where the mail order brides come in.
Yeah,
They want to get here and get that
yeah,
residency
everybody,
going.
because that's
Yeah.
one of the best way to do it. But the
Uh,
DV lottery will be the second best way because after you receive that green card, you wait after 5 years, you can apply for citizenship.
okay. So that's what I was wondering. If you always have a green card, or if at some point you go through some process where that you're no
Yeah, in
longer
my case,
considered a
I
green
did
card
because
holder.
I played the lottery. In other cases, people go through a longer process because they do asylum, they wait for the
Okay.
judgment. That judgment can take 7 years in some cases. Yeah, it's pretty
Okay.
rough.
Wow. Again, I'm grateful I was born here. Like, it sounds like that's quite a process. You had to win
Yes,
literally win the lottery. It sounds like to get here.
yes,
I mean, what in the
correct.
world? I didn't even know there was
Yes,
a lottery to get here.
yes.
That's so crazy. Is that in every country? Do you know they do this outside of the United
Yes. So
States?
basically, it's not in every country, it's selective countries.
Okay.
So there's countries that are banned, like Mexico, I think Jamaica would be banned. They already have a flood of those population. So it's a diversity lottery, right? So in
Ah,
each countries, they have a number that they will legally bring people to just make the US more diverse.
oh my goodness, that's insane. I'm learning so much
Yes.
today. This is
Yeah.
crazy. Wow. Okay. Awesome. So then you're here, you're now a citizen, you've done this deal. How did you finance that first deal? Tell us about the loan structure. Was that a 20% down type situation? What
Yes.
did you end up
So
doing?
basically that first one, and I like that question because I had a vision, right? The vision determined how I was gonna proceed on my financing.
Okay.
But also there is the knowledge gap, right? I
Mhm.
made a decision according to what I knew at the time. If you ask me now, I will probably give you a different answer.
Of course.
And hopefully 5 years from now, my answer will change as I learn more, right?
Absolutely.
Because I'm continuously learning.
Absolutely.
So I did what I call the traditional way,
Okay.
but with a higher down payment because my goal was cash flow.
Okay.
So
Got
I
it.
figured out that the higher my down payment was, the higher my cash flow will be.
Mhm.
So I did a 20% down on that first deal.
Okay. Got it. Cool. Now it's since that point, you bought it in 2019. At any point, are you utilizing the burst strategy in anything you're doing going forward, or did you go back and refinance to pull some of that equity out and then
Yes.
recycle that money? Tell me a little bit about
Yes.
that.
So basically, so after I just recently did it this year. So after that cycle, the property, I basically did a cash out refi,
Okay.
and then I took the money out of it, and then I bought two duplexes
Mm,
out of it. It's still in Manitowoc.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
monopoly at its finest right
Correct.
there.
So as I was learning more, I was like, okay, I don't have to wait for the 20% down because my plan was every 2, 3 years I'll buy one property.
Okay.
And then even though funny thing is, I knew you at a time.
Yeah. Okay.
I went to one of your first, maybe second, third, but once you were doing the showing yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
went there with my wife. We went. There was a lot of people. They walk in the property, some with their contractor, and everything.
Yeah.
So, but I still didn't grasp the fact, how we were doing things. Like coming with a wholesaler. What was that about? But I
Mm,
was still curious because I was continuously learning, and I
yeah.
figure out there's things that you learn that you don't grasp until many many months later. In my case, is years.
Yeah. Well, what I love about what you're saying here, Sam, the point I hope our listeners are taking away is like you're just taking action, dude. Like you're learning
Yes.
action, learning action. Okay, let's reevaluate. How did we do that first one? Okay, well, we do another one. We're probably not gonna do it the same way. We're gonna get a little bit more creative, like you were talking about before. How can we create more value for ourselves in our business? All right, we're gonna do it differently, going
Right.
forward. So that to me is awesome. I see so many people sit on the sidelines because they want to learn, and they never take the action. And really where the real learning comes in is get enough knowledge so you're competent somewhat in what you're doing. But I don't think you can in real estate, especially, I don't think you can learn your way to success without taking action.
That's true.
You gotta
Hmm.
you gotta make some moves and then start building some chess pieces to play with a little bit. And then you can learn from those transactions and those types of things and
And
continue
I
to
just
grow
want to
off that.
tell I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that people will face is it's gonna be the fear of failure, right? I
Mm,
read the book by John Maxwell, right? Falling Forward,
okay.
basically. I figured out that because of the way we grow up, the school system, you growing up, they don't want you to fail. You gotta get good grades. You don't have to fail. So it becomes harder once you get in life where there's plenty of failures, right? There's
Mhm.
plenty of falling and getting up, falling and getting up. And the mind shift toward that. And in my case, I think I had the advantage because I was failing so much already in other things. In English, I was failing. In school, I was failing. So that built my resiliency and my character,
So
right?
good.
I knew I could, if it's for the enemy to get you down, it's for you to get up, right? So
Yeah,
every time I will fail, I will get up because I knew that I went to a circle of falling and getting up,
that is so
and
good.
most people won't take a decision because they're telling themselves, oh, maybe I'm gonna fail, maybe it's not gonna work,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. Paralysis analysis is another one, but I think where that stems from is the fear of failure. Like, okay,
Correct.
unless I know for certain it's going to work out to be exactly the way that I did it, I can't go forward because if it doesn't work out that way, then I fail. Then what does that say about me? And then I'm not, it goes back to some childhood stuff maybe of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, blah, 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 blah. We tell ourselves all this stupid stuff. But man, what you're saying is so good. I think any successful person that at least that I deem successful, if you ask those people, how did you become successful? Typically it's through some failure that they're like, well, I started this thing and it didn't work out. And what I learned was blah, blah, blah. So then I applied it this time. It's like they got back up, like you said, and they went and did it again. So that's so awesome. What is the real estate portfolio look like for you today, Sam?
So basically we're growing right now. We own about five. No, we own five property, and then we have one under contract. All of we have about 11 units right now.
Awesome.
So duplexes and triplexes. And the funny thing is, I start implementing the bird strategy as of maybe I would say 4 months ago, and
Okay.
and once I did it, I had two property under contract right away. And I told myself, oh my God, I was going to be waiting because remember, the goal was every 2 years. So up to my fourth property, I was still buying it the traditional way. I was still doing that. That's why I even say I refinanced just this year. So basically, the big shift is now because I'm realizing that the problem was not the lack of money, but the lack of knowledge, right? Because most people say, oh, okay, you need money to make money. Not really. You need knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Plus the implementation of that knowledge that will make you more profitable.
Yeah.
So yes, so we are in 11 units right now. So we're planning on growing. So once next year, I'm probably gonna end up having at least 2 or 3 again, and start rolling with the bird strategy, with my best wholesaler in the spot.
Yeah, let's go, baby. What is the big goal for you? So, you got into real estate, right? You read a lot of books like, hey, I should do this. This seems like a good thing to do. What is the big why behind real estate investing for you?
Question. Yeah, for me is once it's freedom, right? The freedom that comes, many people think people who do real estate, they just want the money. Money is just a tool. We're not really looking for the money. They're printing it anyways, right? But it's the freedom that comes with it. And in my cases, I know that this can provide the freedom for me to retire my parents. And so as I'm going at it, I'm thinking about my parents because my dad is in the 70s, and my mom is in the 60s.
Okay.
And by God's grace, they are right now in Texas, where they're in Texas in the United States.
Okay.
However, they're still working and I don't like it. I don't like it. So as I'm working, I'm just like, if I can get enough property so I can provide for them, as traditionally in our countries, we believe that we are called to take care of our elderly.
Okay. Very cool. Wow. That's such a good deep why. I mean, that doesn't keep you going. I don't know what will. So I think for you guys as an audience, take that as a good nugget. That's something when I'm coaching people in real estate, that's the first thing I want to know. Why are you doing this? Because it's not going to be easy, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it, and then we wouldn't be able to make any money. So it's good that it's hard, right? Mm-hmm. But having a deep why like that, I mean, when times are tough, when you get knocked down, like Sam's talking about here, you got that deep why really driving you, and you're really serious about it. Like that's what's going to keep you going. And I love what you're saying about your culture, man, because honestly, that is such a good point you mentioned earlier, that's going to automatically make you more successful than 95% of, naturally born citizens here, because we take so much for granted and we're so selfish in a lot of ways. It's like, well, I want to do this because I want blah, blah, blah for me. I want a Lamborghini. I want whatever material object. And you're like, man, I got these guys back in Congo that are living, in terrible conditions, that I want to raise them up and give them opportunity. I mean, that's such a deeper purpose and a much better driver than what I have going on in a lot of cases sometimes, or other people I talk to. So that is awesome. All right, Sam, we're going to wrap this up. I know you got a busy schedule. I don't want to keep you all day. We're going to have a little fun here. What is one of your favorite places to visit in Wisconsin, or maybe a Wisconsin tradition that you've learned since you've been here that you now love and embrace? Could be a favorite place you like to go to anywhere.
Favorite place would be Door County.
What is Door County?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's, and also the Washington Island. All right. Good time with family. It's I enjoy every time we go there. A tradition. I will say I've suddenly become a Parker, fan, basically,
Okay, good
I
deal.
think my love for the Parker is not there yet at the level because some people will tattoo Parker in the body.
Uh,
I'm not there yet.
okay,
However, I don't think I'll get there.
okay.
But yes, I find myself to be in love with, you know, the culture. It's true that I have my challenges as, because I did Uber driving as well, but I love the opportunity. I like the fact that people really support the team.
Yeah,
I was telling my wife, I think the Parker was playing the last time, I think they played in Brazil or something
yeah,
like that,
yeah,
and then we were talking about, are they gonna win or lose? And then I said to my wife, I'm like, regardless whether they lose or win, we're still gonna support them.
yeah.
That's the
That's a
mindset.
true.
Is like, we love you in the good and the bad.
We'll complain about you if you're doing
Yeah.
bad, but we'll still love you. We'll still watch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, Sam. I appreciate you hopping on, man. If anybody wants to connect with you in any way, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you? Is it through a social? Do you have a social media you want to provide, or an email, or anything like that?
Yeah, I basically I have an Instagram,
Okay,
and I have an email. My email will be real estate investor pta at gmail.com. Why
awesome.
PTA? Physical therapy assistant. Basically, I'm most of the people who are in the medical field want to stay in the medical field, and sometimes I want to teach people that you can be in the medical field and have your hands on something that can potentially help you retire as
Yeah,
well.
that's awesome, man. And give you the freedom, like you said, giving you options. So if at some point something changes in your profession or you just want to make a shift, you're not stuck anymore because you built up the real estate stuff. So I love it,
Correct.
man. Well, Sam, this has been an awesome episode, dude. If you guys out there listening want to connect with me or anybody on our team in any way, best way to do that is go to our website, wisconsindiscountproperties.com, put your information in on the contact us page, and somebody from our team will reach out. And we'd love to have a conversation with you. If you're wanting to get started in investing in Wisconsin, or you already do, and you just have some questions, anything that we can help you with, let us have that opportunity to have that conversation with you. And we'd love to be a part of your journey. So this has been another episode of the Wisconsin Investor Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next show.